And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They are open Monday through Saturday for sales and service. You can get to know their lot of new and used vehicles by simply going to Great Lakes Honda City. It's where I've gotten my car for over a decade. I'm very happy to have a 2025 Honda CRV, especially in upstate New York where the weather sometimes doesn't want to cooperate. So head out to Great Lakes Honda City today. Let them know that DT sent you, and you will not be disappointed with not only the majesty of their cars, just how elegant some of these cars. My dad loves the Ridgeline, and I'm a CRV guy, but there's so many new things that have come out with Honda, and then, of course, there's those fan favorites like the CRV, and you could go out and check them out today, bring them home, new and used, and have the opportunity to not only feel safe in your vehicle, but to also look good when you're out there on the road. So make sure you head out to Great Lakes Honda City today, and we appreciate that. With that being said, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, and the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Wake Up Call is with you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time worldwide. And on today's broadcast, we have the opportunity of welcoming two Syracuse Orange alumni here to the show inside Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin'. First up in hour number one, Alban Brown's joining me here, and Alban's coming to us from the likes of the linebacker Alum, and his son Caden is currently on the squad. Caden's had a year under Fran Brown, and I'm excited for the opportunity to be able to speak with him about his son as well as about Fran Brown, his thoughts about the new football performance and center alumni engagement, and the transfer portal. And then Blake Bednarz joining us from the offensive line alum group in Syracuse history and the 1987 undefeated squad. He will be joining me to speak on his thoughts on the new performance center as well as alumni engagement. We'll also get his take on Fran Brown and the transfer portal. So a double dose of Syracuse specials here this morning, coming on the heels of the unveiling and ribbon cutting of the new football performance center, which I was on site on location for last weekend. So with that being said, Mr. Brown is here with us. Alban, how you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. And, you have... it just comes out of you, and I know that it's just your voice and it's what you know yourself to be, but you got that like New York thickness and that New York toughness that comes out of you. It's just like you wake up in the morning, we're getting set and ready to go for the show. I'm like, how you doing, Alban? And you're like, good morning. How are you? It sounds, do you have to sound angry in New York City? Is that a normal thing?
I don't know. I don't know. I got no comment on that. That we are who we are. We're New Yorkers, so
Yeah, I
that's
feel,
why you see I got my Mets hat on. Proud Queens guy. Love my teams.
Yeah, so you're obviously, like you said, you're a Mets fan. How you feeling right now? I know it's early on in the season. We're, getting close to 20 games in and whatnot of a 162 game season. But how are you feeling about the Mets right now?
I'm feeling great about the Mets. I there's been a lot of years I haven't been able to say that, but I'm feeling pretty good about our chances this year, and I'm probably gonna get to a couple of games sometime this spring. So looking forward to that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just down. I brought my dad to. My dad's a Yankee fan, so brought my dad to Yankee Stadium. I'm a Diamondback fan, so we saw Yankees Diamondbacks. That was the Grand Slam day for Geraldo Perdomo, as well as the three-run homer for Aaron Judge that got him to 500 career RBIs, or 500 career extra base hits, I should say. So I did get to see the Yankee side of things, but when we land right. And for those of you that know LaGuardia, when you land in LaGuardia, you land across the water. If you're coming in like JetBlue way, you're right across the water from Citi Field. So you get to see Citi Field like up close and personal. What's that like for you? Like when you're on the road and then you fly back home and being a Mets fan and knowing that you come in right over the stadium, you get to see the stadium, and then you're looking at it while you're coming out of the terminal. What's that like for you to have it so front and center? Because I think for all the work they did at LaGuardia, it definitely benefited the Mets because they're right there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter what airport you fly in New York, you got to come to Queens. So whether you're going to Kenny, LaGuardia, you're going to be in Queens. But whenever I see the stadium, that's home for me. So you know, I go back to the old Shea Stadium and they're really building up that area. I think they're building casinos and hotels in the area. So next time you come down, you gotta come check out City Field too. I know you may not be a Met fan, but just come down, check out the vibe that they got going on over there.
No, I've been wanting to go to City Field for a long time. I was actually down there, I think it was 3 years ago, when the Mets were in the postseason, and I was there for our entertainment show, Super Powered Pop. So I was going to cover New York Comic Con and be at the Javits Center. And then where I was staying was so close to City Field, and I kept saying, I'm like, they're going to be home while we're here. We should go. And I was talking to my cousin about it. I'm like, we should go to the game. But he was reluctant. I should have just went. I should have just felt like, you know what? I'll get an Uber. I'll get back to the house. We'll figure it out. But I would
Well, hold
love.
on. Speaking of Comic Con, how was that? I haven't been yet. I want to check that out one day.
Yeah, I think I've covered it for 7 years. I know it's been six. It might be seven now. But yeah, I mean it's awesome. I'm imagining that Daredevil and Hell's Kitchen and the fact that that show has been on television, Born Again. I would imagine that we're going to see a lot of that at New York Comic Con. I hope we do. And I mean, the event's crazy. 160,000 people. I've broadcasted live on the main floor, and so we've had the opportunity to cover panels, to see actors and actresses, to see TV shows before they come out, to see new episodes before they come out, movies before they come out, full length features. So I mean, I've gotten to see a few movies that I saw back then in October. I got to see previews for the werewolf movie that came out, and then I saw a preview for Drop. And so to see all of that stuff and then to like have it come out now has been pretty cool. So let everybody know who this is, Mr. Brown.
Oh, this is my granddaughter. So we got a little special guest on the show today.
And what's
She
her first
couldn't.
name?
She was busting in my room, wanted to hear what Granddaddy's doing this morning.
What's her
So
first name?
we came up to the spring game. I brought my other son, my daughter-in-law, brought my grandchildren up, to watch the spring game. So it gave Caden a smile to see his family come up and visit him. So we had a good time with that.
And what's her first name?
Uh, she's named after my wife, Cassandra. I call her Baby Cassie though.
Baby Cassie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. So baby Cassie got to come up to the spring game. Family got to go up to the spring game. So let's start there. How was your experience of the spring game?
Well, for me, it was great because I got a chance to see alumni. Anytime I get a chance to see the alumni, I'm happy. And one thing about it is, sometimes you keep seeing the same faces over and over again. We're starting to see different groups from different times come up. So I got a chance to meet a couple of the younger, well, I call them younger guys, but guys from the 2000s. So we're trying to incorporate them more, being more active in the alumni. So, it was great to see them. We sat in the little box they had for us
Yeah.
and watched the game. The game was the game. It's a spring game.
Yeah.
It was good to see the guys, out there competing, fighting for positions. To see the whole new facility and everything that has to offer to the student athletes, especially the guys on the football team. It was great to see that. It wasn't my first time, but it was great to see that. Unfortunately I didn't make it to the ribbon cutting
Yeah.
ceremony, but I think that whole facility is something that the whole university can be really proud of.
Well, and you like you said, you got to go out there and you got to see alumni, and you like doing that, and that's important to you. And I feel that. But you said you got to see new groups, like you were seeing a lot of the same people. Now you're starting to see some new groups. What can you say to that effect? Are we seeing younger alumni? Are you just seeing some of the guys that were around your time there that hadn't been back? Are you seeing some more, 2000s, 21st century alumni? Who are you seeing that you hadn't been seeing?
think we're seeing a combination of both.
Okay.
I'm seeing I was sitting next to a guy, unfortunately I can't remember his name, but he had played in the early 60s and we was just talking and I was asking him, what was that like? He was there before the dome and I believe the old Archibald Stadium, so it was nice to have a conversation with him about how Syracuse football. Matter of fact, he told me a funny story that their spring games they used to scrimmage alumni. And I never heard that. He told me the alumni would come back throwing pads and they would scrimmage them. So, it's like little stories like that you hear from old and new people, so I think it really brings the alumni together, which is something that we've needed for quite a while. And it seems like it's happening more and more.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, to be able to see a mixture of young alumni as well as alumni that were maybe around, before your time, during your time, a little bit after your time. I mean, I've been able to talk with alumni from all different decades, but you don't always see them come back, and you don't really see a lot of young alumni that have been there. So the fact that you're saying that you've been able to see some people from the younger ranks is a beautiful thing because there's a disconnect. I mean, my school that I went to, there's a huge disconnect. They don't reach out to young alumni really at all. So I think it's massive to do something like that because that's the future of it. When you heard from this person that you were sitting next to that the alumni used to scrimmage the current players when this person was playing, what I mean, what did they say about that? And was this somebody that was like before your time or was it after your time?
Yeah, it was definitely before my time. I don't think I played in the 60s. I was born in the 60s. So,
Yeah.
um, we was just, obviously I have my grandchildren with me. So, when you have your grandchildren with you, it kind of brings a little extra attention. So, a lot of people was coming over, you know, who's that? Saying she's cute and stuff like that. But, he was just, giving me his experience
Yeah.
of, the time that when he played. And, I found that extremely interesting and and I learned a lot. So I think my teammate, Turnell Sims, who's the president of the Syracuse football club, is doing an outstanding job running that program. And I believe the program's been around since like 1990 or 91. So again, it was long overdue,
Yeah.
but it's coming together nicely, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, getting to have this alumni engagement, it's something that you and I have talked about. It's something I've spoken about for over a decade. Rob Drummond and I have been banging the drum and repeatedly saying, can we get a coach in here that actually cares about the alumni? It seemed like such an easy thing to do, right? Have the people that came before talk to the people that are thinking of coming. Because if you want to sell toothpaste to someone who's never used it before, go to the people whose teeth are whitened and they love the toothpaste and say, "Hey, what was your experience like?" It was such an easy concept, but it was a concept that wasn't for whatever reason being implemented at Syracuse, and Rob and I just kind of over a decade ago. We started talking about it, then we kept talking about it, and then it was just kind of taking the torch and trying to help. So, getting to each one of you on my show, Rob doing everything that he does on his end, off the air, and seeing what we could do to bring people together and to make y'all feel appreciated. The fact that that's happening with Fran, the fact that you have a place to go, the fact that there is a box to go sit in, there is a welcoming, come to the performance center, come and tour this place. I mean, yes, you're a father of a current player, so your experience, you were going to have access at some point, some way, somehow, anyways. But to be an alum of Syracuse football and to have a coach that actually wants you to be there, bring me into that. Bring me into the fact that we're not begging for it anymore.
I think Fran has done outstanding job of welcoming the alumni, and it's very refreshing. Um, I think he's finding like a good balance of having these guys come in and hold on, excuse me 1 second. Give
Sure.
me 1 second so we don't have no.
Yeah, so that's coming from Alban Brown here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. He has his little baby Cass, and so making sure that she's okay. And she
Yeah, yeah.
came onto the screen here and gave us a little hello. We had a special guest on the broadcast here this morning. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as I was saying, yeah, Fran's doing a good job. Coach Fran is doing a great job of, making us feel welcome and having us come down. And a lot of times, when we come down to practice, he'll have guys say a couple of words, to the team, and I think it's received quite well, from the team. And I'm also happy to see him starting to bring some of the alumni in, to be coaches and stuff, such as Dwight Freeney.
Yeah.
Who could be better than having a Hall of Famer that played here being a part of the program? I think that was an outstanding move, and I look forward to seeing what type of impact he'll have on the program.
Yeah, and you bring up Dwight Freeney, and that was kind of an interesting thing on how it all came about. I got approached by Cooperstown Connection, and they said, "Hey, Dwight's going to be doing a signing. Can you help us in the promotion of it?" So I started doing some advertising and promoting them about a couple weeks out that he was coming into town. And then the day before, as I'm getting this doing like more promotion, heading over to the mall so that we can do some video and whatnot, he gets announced that he's going to be joining the staff with player development. And so that, like, on top of everything that we were doing, it was like, oh, okay, so now I'm promoting not only Dwight Freeney, the Hall of Famer and the Syracuse legend, but Dwight Freeney, the member of the Syracuse staff. And now people can go out there and see him. So it was really cool from my angle because of what I was doing in connection with Dwight. What does it mean to you that he is going to be there on? I mean, he's not going to be on campus every day. I mean, he's got things that he's doing, but he's going to be working in player development, and that we have not only alumni engagement finally, but an alum on the staff along with Dion Maddox to help carry this thing forward.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see um what not what impact that he has. 'Cause I know he's going to have a great impact, but I want to see exactly when you say, player development, like what does that include? Like what exactly is that, or how will that look for him working with the program? So, I want to see how that is. But either way, I think just having someone of his stature around the program, it's going to be nothing but positive. You know, just his knowledge as a player, his knowledge of um business, and just his past experiences at Syracuse, I think would be priceless for some of the young guys and the fans too. I think a lot of fans want to be able to engage with successful alumni, especially guys who did well in the NFL. And again, I applaud Coach Fran and his staff for making this move, because I'm not sure how this may have transpired with some of the previous staff that was in place.
Yeah.
All I could do is give kudos to them for making this move, because I think it's a great move.
And to that point here with Alban Brown, the Syracuse Orange linebacker alum, his son Caden is currently on the roster as well in his second season with the Orange. And we're here this morning inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Alban, for you, like you said, with the former staff, do you think that we would have this performance center? Do you think that there would be the things happening on campus the way that they're happening on campus if not for Fran Brown? And I don't want to take away for the rest of the staff at all, so let me say the entire staff, but Fran has led the charge. Do you feel that what is happening at Syracuse, the improvement of the facilities, the players that are coming in, are you seeing this as a direct reflection of the leader of the program?
Well, I'm not privy to all the information about that. I think the improvements to the facility was already in place before Fran got here. I think. I don't want to speak out of term, but one thing I will speak towards is, I mean, the level of excitement, fan engagement, and just bringing football back in Central New York. I don't think it would be at the level that it's at now if Coach Fran wasn't involved with Syracuse University. That's one thing I'll say for sure. Again, I know improvements was already coming to the facilities. What level of improvements I can't speak to,
Yeah.
but I believe the university was already in the process of you know, upgrading what was there. But again, and just to speak to the facility again, I mean, if you're a fan or somebody that's just interested in Syracuse football, hopefully, you'll have the opportunity to really see the facility and get a tour and get an explanation of some of the things that are in there and why they're there and some of the pictures that are up on the wall there.
Yeah.
And if you ever get that opportunity, you should do it because they did. I can't express how impressed I am with um, the changes that they made and the stuff that they added to the football wing. I mean, it not only does it looks great, it has a lot of meaning. And if you are alumni, I mean, you can't not walk in there and feel like positive energy from just seeing the history of Syracuse football because it is a great and rich history.
Yeah. And when you walk, you talk about you can't help as an alum to go in there and feel good. The first name that you see in the new Lally complex is Floyd Little, the Floyd Little atrium. And I spoke about Floyd Little many times here on the show, right off camera. I have plenty of things that Floyd had signed for me, a book that he took out of his desk. He's, and I say he is because God is real and heaven is real too. So he is one of my closest friends. And we got to spend about 8 years together before he passed. And he was a part of me starting my own business. He was one of the
Mm.
few voices that I went to mentor and kind of help me at the time figure out what I wanted to do. And I talked to him, I talked to my mom's mom, my G mama, and I talked to my parents. And he was in that very tiny circle. Floyd to me means more than I could genuinely say. And I still lean back on his words and his energy and his positivity. So when you see Floyd Little Atrium as an alum, what do you think?
When I see the atrium, you know, with, I only met him a few times. And I believe I went to school with his granddaughter, because I believe she's alumni. So the whole family, has always been like an ambassador to Syracuse University. But to answer your question, when I go in there and I see that, I not only do I feel like it's been overdue,
Yeah.
um, but to finally see it, at least in my lifetime, it just gives a warm feeling in my heart to see that some of the Syracuse greats are finally getting the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah, and for you, I mean, the legacy, right? Marvin Harrison, his son doesn't come to Syracuse. Kevin Johnson's son comes for like a couple minutes. There's a bunch of opportunities. The Ismails, nobody came from there, right? I mean, Kadri had reached out to the former staff about one of his sons. So to know that you're part of this, you have a legacy. This is not something that was really open to people, and it wasn't really something that, I mean, I don't feel like alumni felt welcome, so why would their kids feel welcome? You're potentially going to start a domino effect, and the Brown family is going to be a part of this. What does that mean to you that you and your son Caden both going to Syracuse, both now in that position, having that similarity in position, and knowing that your family is doing something that other families have not done. Other families maybe have not felt welcome to do. I mean, this could be the start of something beautiful for Syracuse as a tribute to the players that came before and the players that are going to be there now.
Sure. Well, all I can say is I feel blessed. I feel blessed that I had the opportunity to send my son to play at my alma mater, where I have such fond memories and I have, great friends to this day. And, Syracuse University and experiences that I had there, definitely shaped my life as an adult.
Yeah.
And to watch my son to have that opportunity for these things happening, even though I'm sure he's not aware of everything that is happening to him, he won't recognize it till years later. But to me, to kind of just look on the sidelines and just watch him, go through this experience, I just feel blessed, because it almost didn't happen, but
Yeah.
it did happen. So I have to give all gratitude to God for that.
Well, and for you, like you said, just coming off the spring game and Caden going into this next year under Fran Brown, what has he said to you when he talks about his experience, what he's learned? I mean, he's got experience in practice now. He's got experience with the playbook. He's got experience with the cadence. He's got experience with what is wanted for him on the defensive side of the ball with Coach Erob. So what has he told you about now year two after knowing what the expectations are?
All this happened at like a very weird time in our life. His mother had passed about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, so I was going through this experience of being a widowed dad and really being his only support system to, when he's going through it, he's calling me and and I have to, you know, normally, dad would just be the strict um disciplinarian type guy, and his mom would always be the come here, give me a hug, show him some love. And I'm trying to split in between doing both jobs now.
Yeah.
So we speak daily, and we speak about what goes on in practice, and his development. And I try to stay out of the way. I don't want to pop up all the time, and I don't want anybody to accuse him of getting any kind of special treatment, because that's definitely not happening. I want him to earn everything that he receives. And it's been quite a learning experience for me, but it's been very fulfilling because I'm seeing him grow up as a man.
Yeah.
Since he's been there, he's matured a lot. I'm sure a lot of the coaches will agree. Um, he's we're even having different types of conversations now, and it's just it's great to see him go through that maturing process. And um Fran is very demanding,
Yeah.
and I'm not mad at him for that. He puts a lot of demands on the kids, um, as far as school, performance on the field, all these things, and I'm happy that he does do it that way. And and certain, and I think he's even said this. Syracuse University football is not going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I'm happy that my son is being around strong men like that, because sometimes it takes a village to raise a child. So sometimes it's nice to hear him come back and tell me things that he's hearing, and he's like, yeah, Dad, you told me that a couple of years ago. And I'm like, yeah, well, right is right, wrong is wrong. So
Yeah.
so all of these things that are happening right now is very fulfilling. And he's going through quite the transformation himself, not just mentally and physically, but also even on the football field. So he was recruited as a defensive end. you know he came in, played the D line, switched to linebacker, had to learn linebacker. Now he's made another switch again, so now he's playing the star position, which for those who don't know, the star position is kind of like a hybrid position between safety, outside linebacker. So, now he's a lot more in coverage, and doing a lot of other things that he's never done before. So, I'm trying to help him as much as I can with that transformation. And I'm excited for him too as well because I think it's a good move for him. Um, so yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm glad God has blessed me to be around experiences with my son, and to have it happen at Syracuse University, my alumni. It just makes it that much sweeter. So I'm a happy guy. I have no complaints. Um, Everything is great. I really can't complain.
Well, and you thank God and you keep going back and talking about your faith, and I think it's important to honor that. Honor the fact that like you said, your wife passed away within the last few years here, and you're still thanking God. You said I have no complaints. I have a lot to be happy with. There's people that have people pass away in their lives or something happens, somebody gets sick, they get sick, and they turn on God. God, how dare you? God, why'd you do that to me? God, I hate you. God, I don't want to, da 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 da. But I think it's important with faith to remember that faith does not come when life is easy. Faith does not come when God hands you a bunch of money. Faith does not come when everything goes your way. Faith comes when it doesn't. Why have you stayed so faithful to God despite the fact that things have happened in life that have been extremely hard, such as the passing of your wife?
I mean, sometimes it's not easy. Um, Earlier on, I had some thoughts like, along the lines that you were speaking of. But, when you really, if you really have the faith that a lot of us speak of, um, and you give thought to the situation, sometimes you look and you say, oh, why me? Why this? But when you really look back and you see the blessings that you have in front of you, it really makes you want to just thank the Lord for those blessings. You really have to count your blessings and just be happy. You know, that's one thing I do give Fran a lot of credit for because he does instill his faith into the kids and encourages them to, whatever, your religious beliefs are, to have faith and whatever you believe in. But I think it's important to have that faith because, like you said, it's not always going to be, have the faith through the good times. It's about having faith through the rough times when things look like, they're just not going to go your way. We can't be so selfish to just always say me, 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 me. Sometimes it's about others. And that was kind of like my therapy. My therapy was actually like coaching high school football, coaching youth football, and just helping others with something that was dear to my heart. Football has done a lot for me in my life, and I just enjoy spending time with young men and helping them show how the game of football can help you in life. So yeah. So, faith is important. Um, you know, I can't really describe it any further. It's just important to have it, and it's helped me tremendously. That's all I can say.
How did you turn that corner? Like you said, when you had thoughts of anger, frustration, confusion, how did you turn that corner from saying, God, I'm mad at you, to God, I lean into you?
All right. Whew. That's a good question. I think it just took time. It took time and, just understanding that, God puts you in certain positions sometimes in life for a reason. I truly believe that. And I don't know how I did it. It just, they say time heals all wounds, and that it really does. Sometimes you just got to sit back, put things in perspective, and you know, let God just lead you, down the right path. And I'm in a much better place than I was a few years ago. And I encourage Caden to lean into that as well. Talk to your mother, pray to your mother. She's listening, she's your angel. I'm constantly telling them things like that, and I believe that, and I think all of us should have, talk to God. He will listen and he will answer in his own way. So that's my belief. Um, that's kind of how I help myself get through difficult situations. And when you have a lot of people that depend on you and lean on you, if you're the head of the household or whatever, you don't have no time to feel sorry for yourself. You just gotta, pick yourself up, keep moving forward, and that's what I've been trying to do.
Alban Brown giving us a lot of more important information than simply X's and O's here on Wake Up Call, where sports meets life. So we're meant to have these conversations. Here with us, Syracuse linebacker Alum, father of Caden, who's on the team right now. And as he said, Caden is now playing the star position, which was also known as Rover recently at Syracuse, and that puts you in the linebacker safety spot. Justin Barron has done that well, and so now Caden has an opportunity with that. Also speaking on the new Performance Center for football, the portal, which we'll get to in a minute, and alumni engagement, as well as head coach Fran Brown here with Alban Brown of the Syracuse Orange football history on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We've been speaking about family. We've been speaking about alumni. We've been speaking about working through things, expectations. Fran saying that Syracuse isn't for everybody. The transfer portal, which has, as far as I'm concerned, no parameters. Nothing. You could do what you want, when you want, how you want. No one's getting in trouble for tampering. Nobody's getting in trouble for calling players. During the college football playoff, Alban, I had phone calls, text messages from coaches, head coaches, that were in the college football playoff of those 12 teams telling me, Dan, we are practicing for our college football playoff game, and my players are getting phone calls and text messages from other schools offering them money, asking them to get in the portal while we're practicing in hopes of a national championship. So it's happening not just, oh yeah, well, it's happening over here with these schools that are not in bowl games. No. It's happening to the best teams in the country. So we have that side of it, right? The tampering side of it, the use of money side of it, NIL and the transfer portal are not supposed to work together side of it. All of those things going on. On top of that, the transfer portal opens before the end of the season. You could transfer out before a bowl game. You can transfer out before the college football playoff. You don't have to finish the season with your team. On top of that, after spring ball, the portal opens again, and you have the opportunity to run away. Fran Brown comes to you and says, hey, you want $600,000? We can only give you $400,000, so you leave. Hey, Fran Brown comes to you and says, you're going to be my third string cornerback because you didn't show me what you needed to show me. Work out in the summer. Let's try and move up the thing. They say, screw you, coach. I'm out. So bring me into where we currently are, because competition doesn't have to happen in practice anymore. Guys can run away from competition, run away from responsibility, run away from their education, chase money, be individualistic. We talk about alumni engagement and how hard we have fought for people like yourself to be welcomed on Syracuse's campus again. And now we're living in a world where, who are you an alum of? These guys don't finish their education. If they finish their education, they had it at 4 different schools, 5 different schools, 3 different schools. So when they have the 10-year reunion, do they go to UCLA? Do they go to USC? Do they go to Ohio State? Where do they go? Who's their family? So we kept talking about family, Alban. But in the world we live in today, is there a family when it comes to the transfer portal?
No, I don't believe there is. But let me just say first that I'm all for the athletes getting paid.
Yeah.
For years there's been a lot of money made, and a lot of the players didn't have a part of it. Um, I think the biggest problem is we just don't have the proper oversight. There's no commissioner, there's no one voice
Yeah.
that can regulate this. You know, I think at some point, everything will work itself out. We're going through a lot of growing pains right now, college football. Um, in one way, as a fan watching it, it's fascinating to see all the things that transpire and how fast things move. You know, you get up, you turn on YouTube, there's a zillion podcasts and people talking about conference realignment and transfer portal. If you're into that type of stuff, there's so much content out there you can consume about all that stuff. Where we go, I don't know where this ends, or how it necessarily ends. I don't think anybody knows right now. But what I do believe is that at some point they will get it together because college football, college sports in general is such a like it's a part of our fabric in America, in American sports. And I think that we have to kind of get a grip on everything that's going on so that you know, college sports, stays alive. Um, the transfer portal is it's a two-way street, right? You know, kids, can go in there seeking maybe a better opportunity or another opportunity.
Yeah.
But there's another part of it too that I don't think gets enough publicity is, some of these kids, um, you get told to go in the portal. You might get told to go in the portal because maybe, you're not good enough, or maybe, the coach is just looking for something different, or maybe somebody's in the transfer portal that they want to have and they need a spot, you know. So, some of these athletes, these young guys are in tough situations and they're experiencing a tremendous amount of stress. Am I going to be here tomorrow? You know, in my day, if you got a scholarship and if you sucked in football, they're going to let you stay there and you're going to get your degree, not anymore.
Yeah.
If you come there and you're not the athlete that they thought you was, hey, they'll tell you you got to go into the portal. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not smart enough to answer to have all the answers, but I think that all the uh, schools have to get together and figure this out because right now the way it stands is it's the Wild West right now. That's what it seems to me. So it's interesting, it's engaging, but it's also scary, especially when you have a child that's like involved with it. I'm also concerned, and again, I don't think it's going to happen during my son's tenure at Syracuse, but this whole conference realignment stuff, what's going to happen with the ACC? You got the Big Ten and you got the SEC, as the two predominant conferences that make the most money. There's so much stuff that's going on, and it's concerning to see what may happen, to Syracuse sports if they don't make the right decisions and make the right moves, not just financially, because like let's talk, for example, the ACC has this new model and how they're going to pay schools. It's all about the eyeballs, how many people you have watch your games. So does that mean that Syracuse has to have like a campaign to kind of try to advertise their sports so that more people will watch?
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. You know.
Well, I mean, and you got to think about it this way too. If the ACC decides your TV schedule for your conference games, and they put Syracuse on ESPN Plus, and they put Florida State on ESPN, and they put Clemson on ABC, and they say, well, we're going to pay you based on eyeballs. Well, reality tells you more people are going to watch ABC and ESPN than ESPN Plus. So that's just reality because they got to buy a separate subscription. They got to do all this stuff. So if Syracuse continues to get the short end of the stick in ACC programming, then the ACC is going to set them up to make less money because there's no way they're going to make the amount of money on ESPN Plus and ACC Network Extra and yada, yada, yada. I mean, Syracuse basketball in and of itself, those games are pushed. Those games are not feature games. They're not marquee games. They're not being treated well. Since Boeheim was gone, Syracuse has fallen far down the list as far as programming on ESPN, ABC, and the like. So, I mean, that's that's the reality to me. As I say, if that's the case, Alvin, and that's what they're going to do, they're going to say, okay, well, how many eyeballs are watching your games? Well, if the conference decides who's on what channel and who's on what stream, then the conference is essentially deciding how much you're going to get paid. And
Right.
granted, Syracuse basketball should not get paid the highest. But Syracuse football, if they continue to compete like they did last year, then Syracuse last year should have made more money than Florida State. So I mean that's what we're looking at, right? Is what does it come does it come down to results? Does it come down to wins and losses? Does that matter at all? There's so many questions that go into this. And one of the questions that fans are asking right now when we talk about the transfer portal and NIL is how the heck does your star wide receiver, who is supposed to be a captain, now in the transfer portal, Trevor Pena, coming out here, Syracuse coach Fran Brown said Trevor Pena entered the portal after asking for a larger NIL deal. Quote, "We paid him enough. There were some numbers that were asked to me that I didn't feel I would be able to do and move on." He also went on to say, quote, "I'm not giving no wide receiver $2 million in college," end quote. So Trevor has been a guy who I rooted for years and years and years ago when people didn't know who he was. The guy was someone I believed in. He got hurt, tried to come back, got hurt again. I wanted to see him as a wide receiver. Some people thought he was just a specialist. Last year, he shows the world what I was hoping for times 10 and then some. I was like, okay, I'm a Trevor Pena fan. I believe that he's going to be good for this team. Last year, in a healthy year, he went above and beyond any thoughts that I could have when it came to him. So going into this season, he's the guy that the team's leaning on. Going into this season, he's the guy that's going to start. He's the guy that's coming back and going to run this wide receiver crew. He's the guy that Syracuse spent money on, right? Kept his scholarship. You're injured, we're going to keep you. You're injured, we're going to keep you. We're trying to get you back on the field. For years, they poured into him. So last year, the dividends paid off, right? Everything Syracuse poured into, now he's healthy, look at what he can do, and now he's gone. And allegedly, what we're hearing is it's over NIL. He wants this, Fran doesn't want to give it to him. What are your thoughts on this situation? And I'm not putting Trevor at the stake. I'm saying for any college student athlete, when a school says, we'll keep your scholarship, we'll give you a free education, we'll lean on you while you're injured, and when you get healthy, we're going to bank and hope that that investment was good. And then they get a huge return on their investment, and then he leaves after spring ball. I mean, this is a situation that no Syracuse fan was expecting.
I'm not going to comment too much on that situation because I see both sides of it. But what I will say is I blame the system for this happening or being allowed to happen. You know, there's very little regulation from the NCAA. They're scared to do anything because they're worried about getting sued. Because it seems like every time they get sued, they lose.
Yeah.
There should, there's no oversight. I'm not going to fault a kid for trying to maximize his potential. I'm not going to fault Syracuse University for saying they want to pay a certain amount or not pay a certain amount. I believe both sides. There's three sides to the story. But I'm not going to get too deep into that.
Yeah.
I just know that I was a huge fan of his. I'm sorry to see him go, but I wish him the best, wherever he ends up. I think he's a fantastic kid. I think I met his family once. He has a great family. Um, you know, yeah, that's a podcast all to itself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say too much more on that though. I wish him well, and I'll just look at it from the standpoint where it's going to open up some opportunity for some of these young guys to step up and make a name for themselves. So I'm looking forward to see what this talented wide receiver group is going to do.
Well, and it's not just Trevor. right? I mean, we look to the world, and the quarterback of Tennessee, Nico Ilamaeva, if I said it, hopefully I said it right, but he's moved forward, right? I mean, this is a guy who was in the college football playoff. This is a guy who just started his career at Tennessee. So, I mean, it's not mutually exclusive that it's happening to Syracuse, but if this is where we are, Alban, if the captains of teams, if the leaders of teams, if the starters of teams are leaving, I mean, what are we going to get in college football if the players that the teams are leaning on are staying through the spring and then telling everybody in the summer, I'm out. I'm out. You know, I'm not going to be here. Like, I'm going to spend the summer being a free agent. I'm going to figure out where I want to go. I mean, we're living in a world right now where the top D lineman, the top O lineman, the top quarterback, the top wide receiver, the top running back. I mean, what if Ashton Genty said to Boise State, what if he had another year this year and he went through the spring game and said to Boise State, hey, go pound salt. I'm out. I mean, without him, there's no college football playoff for Boise State. So, I mean, it's not just Trevor. We're talking about Tennessee college football playoff, starting quarterback, plenty of years left. See you later. What are we doing here?
I don't know, but all these athletic directors from all the universities and the university presidents, they're gonna have to get together and figure this out because I believe it's gonna get worse before it gets better. And I really don't know. You know, I really don't know. It's just going to continue. You know, and again, I don't think you can really get on the kids. Like if you read the comments, you know, you see a lot of fans saying things like, "Oh, no loyalty" and stuff like that. But you know, some of these kids, they're trying to maximize what they can make
Yeah.
before it's over. You know, even if you do make it in the NFL, I mean, what's the average life of somebody in the NFL is playing with 3, 4 years, you know, and some of these guys won't make it to the NFL. So you can't knock them for, uh, you know, trying to make as much money as possible. But I believe the problem is in the system. The system is allowing this to happen,
Yeah.
and there's no guardrails.
No, you know, and I said it before. I wrote it in an article. It's on wakeupcalldt.com. You can go and read it on the paper trail page. The reality is the reality. If you don't put a fence around the horses, you'll be chasing them down every night. That's where we're at. So, Alban, before we go, you and I are going to play some rapid fire. We've talked about a lot of different things. Now we could talk about literally anything. Can be sports related, can be football related, can be life related. You get to ask me the first question. What do you got?
Okay, first question. Um, are you looking forward to going to the ACC conference meeting? I believe that's what it's called. They have and um, what's some of the questions that you're going to ask when you get there?
So yeah, so they do have their spring meetings, and then we have ACC kickoff. I mean, I'm at ACC kickoff every year, but I mean, my questions to the ACC would be, what are you doing to push the NCAA to truly address name, image, and likeness? What type of parameters? Are you going to lean on the collectives, or are you going to lean on individual contracts, so to speak? I think they need to choose. I think conferences need to choose what they're going to do, because some schools have collectives, other schools it's individualistic. And Miami has, you know, from the beginning pushed the collective, which is essentially a bank account that they can just send toward anybody. I think they need to figure out what that is. You can't have NIL with no parameters, and you can't have NIL where different schools are doing different things, because it's not fair. You have to have an even playing field. And I mean, look at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a small school. There's not a lot of enrollment. Look at Miami. It's a massive school. So obviously Miami has more alumni than Wake Forest does, and they have more to put into collective. So you got to figure that out. So I think the ACC needs to answer that question, even if the NCAA is not going to. I think the ACC also has to look at the transfer portal. You know, I mean, I think conferences need to start dictating to the NCAA what's going to happen. Since the NCAA has decided for many, many years to not do the right thing, not do the hard thing, the ACC doesn't want to be mom or dad. The ACC wants to be cool uncle. And they need to, or not the ACC, I'm sorry, the NCAA. Pardon me, ACC. The NCAA wants to be cool uncle. They don't want to be mom and dad. So the ACC has to be mom and dad, and the SEC has to be mom and dad, and the Big Ten has to be mom and dad, and the Big 12 has to be mom and dad, and whatever the pack is has to be mom and dad, and the American, and so on and so forth. Conference USA, Sun Belt, Mountain West, and so on and so forth. They have to make a decision on who they want to be. And so I think the questions to the ACC are, what are you specifically doing to handle the NIL? How are you evening the playing field? Where is the lawsuit with Florida State and Clemson? Can they get out of this thing? And are we going to fight this thing for the next, because it's what, until 2036? So are we going to keep fighting this thing for the next 11 years? Or is there going to be a decision that's going to be made? I think the questions that are going toward the ACC are questions going toward pretty much every conference. But I think the specific questions toward the ACC is, how real is this thing? How real is Clemson and maybe Miami, Florida State? How real is this? And is there a plan for the future? And how real is Stanford and Cal? Are they temporary Band-Aids? Are they planning on going back to the pack now that the pack's being put back together? So I think when it comes to realignment, NIL, and the transfer portal, these are questions for the ACC. But I think another thing to be addressed by the ACC, and I have a very great and close relationship with their commissioner, Jim Phillips, as well as their staff, is that they're an actual conference that cares about education. They're an actual conference that talks about God and talks about faith. Jim Phillips is a very faith-filled man and a God-fearing man. So I think there's an addressing of that too. Morals, values, faith. Can you be the conference that leads us in that direction when all the other conferences maybe aren't talking about that? So I think knowing the ACC as well as I've known them for over a decade, I have a plethora of questions. And I think that there needs to be some type of moral value set in the foreground. And then in the background, there needs to be some addressing that if the NCAA is just going to keep buying candy bars for all the players and telling them that they don't have to eat a full meal, what's the ACC going to do to make sure they're eating their fruits and vegetables, essentially? My question back to you is, if you were the commissioner of the ACC right now, what's the first thing you would do?
I was the commissioner of the ACC. I think they have to get a little bit more aggressive when they're sitting at the table with the for all these other conferences, and when they're making these decisions, for example, with the college playoffs and how many automatic bids and things of that nature. It just appears to me, again, and I'm looking from the outside in, that they just, concede to whatever the other conferences want to do. I want to see them just be a little bit more aggressive and, fighting for the conference. And I think they need to have more negotiations and conversations with schools like Notre Dame that are like, they have one foot in with the ACC and one foot out. Again, like, there's a lot to discuss, but there's also a lot that I don't know. So I don't want to judge because obviously I'm not in those meetings. But when I just look at it, it just looks as if the ACC is just getting kind of pushed around and bullied by some of these other conferences. So one of the first things I guess I would do is just have a conversation with all of the members and just try to keep everybody together and listen to what all the schools are saying and having just one singular voice and trying to stand behind that. So
yeah.
I like the conference. I want to see it to continue to thrive, be strong. So yeah, so to answer your question, the first thing I would do is, if they're not doing this already, is have more conversations on, and be a little bit more. One thing I give the Big 12 credit for is they seem to look outside the box a little bit more than the ACC as far as generating revenue for the conferences and coming up with ideas. I don't think we can afford to just continue to do things the way they was done. You know, it's a new landscape of college sports, and I think there's a lot of different money streams that are out there that they need to look into, and don't be afraid to act on some of these things. You know, don't always worry about being the first. And because if the ACC is to survive as we see it now, it's going to take some outside the box thinking, I believe.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You got to be proactive, not reactive. What's your final question for me?
Final question for you. I'm going to go towards high school sports, in particular, high school football. So as it stands right now, um, there's basically, I believe, what three champions in New York State. So you have the New York football state champions that are played in Syracuse, New York, right? But there's other state champions as too. So down in the PSAL in New York City, they have their champion,
Yeah.
right? And then you have Long Island, they have their own champion. So you got three champions there, and then you really only have one Catholic school champion. The Catholic private schools are really the only true state champion because it's the Catholic schools throughout the state that they have one championship. So my question to you is what would you do to try to have like a one unified champion? Where the upstate public school can play the New York City champion and the Long Island champion, so we could have one true champion, at least on the public school side of high school football. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's weird to say you're a champ. I mean, it's kind of like Oprah, right? You're a champion. You're a champion. You're a champion. You're a champion. Like I want to see a true champion, and when you get to a certain point, it ends, right? CBA has had multiple championships since 2021. Has had three, and Christian Brothers Academy is my alma mater. I want to see them keep playing. So they play through the sectionals. They win the sectionals. They go on to states. They win their states. But then there's, like you said, other portions of the state that you don't play. And there's other portions of the state that you don't go up against. So to me, yes, I would like to see that happen. I would like to see a system and a bracket where we can see who is the true champion of a state because at a certain point you stop. And I understand that, I mean, these are high school kids, and do you want to keep going past a certain point and this and that, and there's Christmas break that comes up and what. But for me, I would like to see some type of system where you get to continue on. And in the state of New York, we know that, Long Island and, the New York City area, as well as upstate New York, upstate, downstate, that would be awesome, to see certain things like that. I mean, I know that upstate plays upstate and downstate plays downstate, but it would be nice to actually see something declare a champion. I mean, I was even a proponent of saying, let's have the champions play each other, right? Like let's have each state have one true champion, and then of the 50 states, pick out the top ranked 6 states and have them play for the country championship. The best team in New York plays the best team in Florida. The best team in Kansas plays the best team in California. The best team in Texas plays the best team in wherever, Ohio. And then we decide, from there who's going to be our true champion. So I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I would like there to be more of it because you can be a champion without even seeing like half of the state. And in the state of Florida, I mean, how do you even declare that? I mean, I get what you're saying, and I'm a proponent for it. I would be open to even overseeing that or being on a board that would oversee making that happen since I've spent so much time with high school athletics and I've spent so much time in the state of New York. So I would love to see something like that come to fruition. My question back to you is a 2-part question. One, did you get my Cuse McMother when you came back in town at Mother's Cupboard? Because I know you like my sandwich. And 2, if we made a sandwich in your honor, what would the downtown Alban Brown have in it?
Okay, well, to answer the first part of the question, I did not get back to Mother's Cupboard to get a sandwich. Again, last time I came up, I had my family with me. It was just really hectic. The weather sucked. It was
Yeah.
just it was from that standpoint, it was a bad weekend. But I'm next time when I go up, which will be relatively soon, I'm gonna tell you that I'm going there, and hopefully you can meet up with me, and we're gonna eat and we're gonna have conversation.
Yes.
Now, what would be my sandwich? Well, I'm in this new health kick, so I'm super healthy right now, trying to eat. I'm trying to live. I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to just be around as long as I can. So I would say my sandwich would be egg whites, uh, with turkey, and avocado, on a toasted roll, no butter. I don't know how much people would like it, but that's kind of my go-to now when I'm going out trying to eat. And that's actually me living on a little bit on the wild side right now. So
Oh, I like that. I like that. I've been eating a lot
a
of
little,
turkey.
little pepper and no salt.
Okay, yeah, listen, I'm all for that. No salt. The turkey, I told you before we got on air, my stomach's been not great, so I've been leaning on turkey if I'm going to have something, and try to have some turkey, try to have some seafood, try to, clean out whatever's been bugging me. So I can respect that, and please, definitely let me know when you come into town because I want to break bread with you. Alban Brown here with us, Syracuse linebacker, alum, speaking on the new football performance center, the portal, alumni engagement, his son Caden, who's on the roster, and more importantly, the bigger things in life. Alban, for you, for baby Cass, and the whole family, I want to thank you for being a part of the show as always. God bless you. God bless your family. And I look forward to talking with you soon.
Same to you. Take care. Be
Take
well.
care. Take care. That coming once again from Alban Brown here with us. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're already in hour number 2. Believe it or not, time flies when you're chasing your dreams. So we will be back momentarily with Blake Bednarz, also of Syracuse Orange football history, and he'll be joining me to give his thoughts on all the new things happening on campus, as well as what's happening in collegiate athletics in general, and what does he think about the world that we're currently living in college athletics. Can we figure this thing out? Can we get our head above water? We'll talk about that in just a moment with Mr. Bednarz. Stay with us. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees. And as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allow customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machine, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machine. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I could tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Can't thank you enough for being a part of the show here on Wake Up Call every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, we are here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, and you are with us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, live internet streaming radio. So however you're connected with the show, I thank you so much for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And as we continue the conversation on Syracuse Orange football, as we look toward the future, it is my pleasure, my honor, and my privilege to have back on the broadcast with me Mr. Bednarz, Blake Bednarz, coming to us from that undefeated team in Syracuse history. There's only been two, 1959 and 1987. He was part of the 1987 team. His teammate Turnell Sims was on the broadcast yesterday, and his teammate Rob Drummond has been on the show for many, many years as Rob and I have worked to try and get the alumni back involved with Syracuse University and the football program. So, with that being said, Mr. Bednarz, offensive line alum, is here to speak on the new Performance Center, the portal, alumni engagement, and more. Blake, how are we doing today?
Hey, good, Dan. How are you? Thanks for having me, brother.
Absolutely.
Just enjoying life.
And I know that you're currently traveling. You got some time with family, and you decided to spend time here on the show this morning. I want to thank you for being with us here this morning, always for when you're on the show, but also in the fact that you're on the road. So I do appreciate you taking some time.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to be here. We're heading from Florida up to watch my daughter plays Coastal Carolina. She's with Queens, and a couple Fulton local girls will be button heads up there with. So it should be pretty interesting. So it's all good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, and happy to have you here. Blake Bednarz with us here this morning. Blake, you and I have talked about a lot of things over time when it comes to Syracuse and it comes to this program. For you to see where it's at right now with a new performance center, with all of this work being done, with the Ensley Center coming a few years ago, John Lally and having the Lally complex and all the work that's been done there, and all of the investment that's been going on for Syracuse. As you look at these last few years and the ribbon cutting this past weekend of the new football performance center, what are your thoughts when we look at the future of Syracuse football?
Well, it's clearly, they're finally competing at a facility level with a lot of other schools where, look, I think they've always had great facilities, and I'm going to sort of backpedal here to when I came, they had just put on an addition to Manley Fieldhouse, and at that time it was just more or less a wing off of Manly that had a new training room, the new weight room. When I say new, it was probably about a year and a half old. Mike Wojcik was the strength and conditioning coach. So to me, that was a big attraction for me personally. And having gone to the Michigans and Penn States and been recruited there, you know, it was on par with them. But over the years, it's sort of lost its luster because Syracuse University hasn't kept up with some of the other facilities. But you know, when you see what they've done now, I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, when we were there, we had, just to put it in perspective, it was considered state of the art, but it was more or less a 40 by 40 room that would act as our training table. We'd eat there. We'd do study table. We'd have our team meetings there. We would have our breakout sessions there with our individual breakout groups. We'd also do squad meetings there, meaning half defense, half offense in one room, which is roughly 40 by 40. And what it had was, after every meeting, you know, every time we made a transition, we'd pull the partitions. Typically, the freshman would pull the partitions, and it would break into 6 different rooms, 3 different rooms, 2 different rooms, whatever you wanted. But basically, it was a big box, and you know, we thought that was pretty cool. Now you look at what, you know, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sure, you know, take a gander on Syracuse.com. You know, they have a bunch of pictures as to what they have right now. They have, you know, it's endless is what's going on, from a barbershop to an arcade to state-of-the-art training facilities. It's pretty impressive. And I think, you know, in today's day and age, we're in a unique sort of spot as fans and as, you know, watching it develop, where, you know, there's a lot of nuances there that are just, you know, top-notch, and it's kind of overwhelming, to say the least.
Yeah, you know, and I had the opportunity to be at the ribbon cutting as well, and I've posted the pictures of the locker room, of every single locker that is in that locker room, and I will also be posting the pictures of the things you were talking about, the arcade, the food, the pools that rise and lower themselves for the student athlete at the time that they're in. So we got plenty coming up here on Wake Up Call as far as the videos and the pictures. Like you said, of all the thing that's going on and everything that you have, Turnell, your teammate on the offensive line, I spoke with him yesterday on the show, and he said we used to try and find places in our facility, like find a bench somewhere where we could lay down, find somewhere where we could sleep. Now these guys all have their individual lockers. They have cup holders, you know, stuff for electronics, climate controlled. They have these pools for themselves. They have the dining facility. They have the gaming area. And here's something that's insane and it's like everybody's focusing on the gaming and the food and whatever. To me, this is insane in such a good way. So insane in an amazing way. Every single unit of this team has their own meeting room, and each meeting room has has on the outside what position: O-line, D-line, cornerbacks, safeties, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and so on and so forth. They all have their own room, and they all have pictures of alumni as they go into that room. So you go in the tight end room, it's got Aronde Gadsden II, it's got Chris Gedney, you know, there's pictures like that. You go into the quarterback room, you have Kyle McCord, you have Eric Dungy, you have Donovan McNabb, you have Marvin Graves, Don McPherson. So when you think about this, because I want to break it down, I know I just threw a lot at you, but Blake, what is your favorite thing that you've seen?
Yeah, to me, I would have to say the training facilities with, you know, when you look at the training room, you've got you have a gravity, I forget what they call it, a gravity, zero gravity treadmill, which is basically running in the water. To me, that's all the stuff that I find very, very exciting if I were a player. What would attract me? I mean, it's definitely a state-of-the-art facility. And then when you look at the weight room and some of the additions that they made, it's sort of head scratching. And you know, to have that, you know, from a facility training standpoint, and to heal your body, it's unbelievable. I mean, we had, you know, there were a bunch of, you know, your traditional training rooms. We had a hot tub that, is basically a hot tub you would have in your backyard and they would fill it with ice, and that was the therapy. That was about the only one you had, and you'd submerge yourself waist below. It's like an 8-person hot tub, then side of things, you'd have basically a steel tub that looked like where the cows go out to pasture with a little.
Oh, we might have lost Blake here for a second.
It's pretty impressive, And one last thing, when you look at from an entertainment standpoint, there's probably 120-inch TV in there. We had like a 60-inch TV in our break room that we thought was the coolest thing ever. And I remember my freshman year for White Snake video to come out with Tawny Katane crawling across the hood of the car, and that was we thought that was the greatest thing. So it's it really. But at the end of the day, I do want to say this: it's can you play football? Can you execute the X's and O's? All that's great. But really, how does that translate onto the field? And I think with Fran Brown, I think we saw what they could do. It's interesting what's going to happen with Kyle McCord, the vacancy there, and how this new kid Collins does. So again, it's a TBD thing. It's like every year you got to sort of prove yourself. And I think that's unfortunately or fortunately, it's the day and age we live in.
Well, in Syracuse having these awesome facilities and this new football performance center, I've covered NFL teams. I've been in NFL locker rooms, so I can say that Syracuse's locker room is an NFL locker room. I can look at certain things and say, yeah, this is incredible. This looks NFL. This looks professional. But here's the thing. John Wildhack, the athletics director, said that, we're providing all these avenues, right? We're giving them every reason to be okay because maybe this is going to be the difference. Maybe having the food that we have and the options that we have in the dining hall that we have, maybe that's going to be the difference in winning a game or losing a game. Maybe having this atmosphere where they could be comfortable at their locker, maybe that's going to be the difference. Maybe having the pool that can rise and lower itself and have all the technology, maybe that's going to be the difference. But you said they have to play the game and they got to be good at playing the game. Do you believe in that? Do you believe in John Wildhack saying if we provide you all the facilities and we provide you all of the services and we provide you all of these avenues, that this could be the difference in winning a game? If we can give you this in nutrition and this in the weights, because obviously they still have to use it, they still have to eat the right things, they still have to do it. I mean, the onus is on the individual. But John is now saying, but if we give you what you need, then you should have no excuse.
I would agree with that to some extent, and here's what I mean. It's like, picture you have this field, you want to plant crops, right? But you want to make sure it has the most fertile environment. It has the things necessary to make sure you get fruitful crops, right? Yeah. And I think that's what John Wildhack, that's sort of, I'm an analogy guy. That's sort of my analogy, but you still need to plant it. You still need to let it grow. But the key is, are you getting the right people? Because all that means nothing if you're not getting those top-notch recruits and that talent to really sustain that, or even, again, today, you're going to hear me say the phrase today's day and age. I'm still getting my head around it, but it's one of those situations where you might only have a kid now instead of for 4 or 5 years, which was probably 90% of the student athletes. Now you might have them for 1 or 2, and then, like look with Pena there. I mean, here's a captain who's chasing more money. And it's, again, I'm still trying to digest this whole new world. But to your initial comment, where it's like, I do believe if I were to handicap it, it's probably 75% of what you need, but you still need to complete that circle, that other component of getting the talent, getting the kids to utilize it, which I'm sure, again, Fran Brown's proven that he can do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing is people talk about, well, you don't have the same facilities, you don't have the same resources, so people aren't going to come, and so you want to get those players there, but they still have to do the work. Getting players in. Now Syracuse focuses on NIL. They focus on trying to build this thing. They focus on what does this mean for the future. and how do they take care of this and yada, yada, yada. Blake, we're living in a world where sometimes it is about the money. Sometimes it is about a player not wanting to compete for a job. Sometimes it has nothing to do with school. And this is where we're at, right? We're in a place where there's free agency. Syracuse just finished up spring ball, lost their top wide receiver. So, Tennessee, they finish up their spring ball. They lose their quarterback who brought them to a college football playoff game early on in his career. So where are we in that world in your mind, right? It's not about competition anymore. It's not about I'm Blake Bednarz and I'm coming onto a team and I got one guy at my position that's ahead of me and I'm going to have to work and I'm going to have to be, mentored by this guy, and 2 years from now I'm going to start. This is I'm Blake Bednarz, and if after the spring my coach tells me I'm not the starter, I'm going to run somewhere else and I'm going to go find a place where I could be a starter because I'm not going to compete for a job. I want millions of dollars and I want you to guarantee me a starting job. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but that exists in the world we live in today. There's no guardrails over free agency. There's no guardrails over money. And Syracuse, like other schools, is being affected by it. So what are your thoughts on the NIL space, right? Fran's got to bring the guys in. He's got to keep the guys so they get the facilities. But you just had a guy in Trevor Pena who was injured for multiple seasons, finally had a healthy season, had a tremendous season, and now he's gone. So the NIL space and the transfer portal is now in a position where a guy that Fran called his captain is no longer on the team.
Yeah, that one was sort of, I wouldn't say an eye opener, but it's a reality check as to where we are today with it. So first of all, your comment with the NIL space, to be honest with you, I'm still figuring it out. I'm not a huge fan because I'm a traditionalist, right? Where from that standpoint, where it's changed the whole dynamics. There's really no loyalty. Let's call it what it is. For whatever reason, you create these bonds, you do these things. That's one component. The other component is life's going to face us with a lot of challenges as we go through life's up and downs, right? It's like, I think the downside to that sort of approach is that, you're not always going to be able to run to the next thing if the grass is not always greener, but it has to be mowed. Remember, and I think that it sets not a good precedence from a life lesson standpoint. So that's sort of my psychology with it, me personally. However, I get the whole thing where I would probably do the same thing where if there was an opportunity, to capture some money, and if strategically it makes a lot of sense, I confer with my parents and so on. It's a different world. So, I'm looking at this from the lens of, that traditionalist person that played here, 35 plus years ago. And, I'm sort of working through those emotions, but in life as we know it, as that traditional for 100 plus years, it's changed. And it's, again, it's either with change, you either embrace it or you don't, and I think, when you embrace change, it's part of living and it's part of evolution around the board. So I'm not sure if that specifically answered your question. I'm really sort of trying to figure it out with me personally. So I hope that makes sense from that standpoint. So, one other thing, with the NIL component is that every year they're going to have to be certain enough revenue, right, to support the program, support the players, and as a fan, season ticket holder for 30 plus years, and then some. I went to, I think it was a year or two years ago, went to get some 12-4 tickets, and they would be $250 or $300 for the season, and it's basically admission, and it's like a cash bar for food, for drinks, whatever, and it's kind of a nice touch, but. I went to get them last year. It went from in 1 year. It went from $250 or $300 for the season to $1,500 for the season for one access. So, and I get where they're coming from, but from a fan perspective and the base that Syracuse has, I think it's going to be challenging to maintain that sort of pace, unless you have huge corporate sponsors, which, kind of, I was talking to an alumni who I played with, came in with me, and more to come on that. But he's working on some NIL revenue generation sort of things that are pretty intriguing, and I think the university would find them very beneficial, and more to come on that, I'm sure, because he's got a big vision, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think it could sort of ease the pain with, all this, the NIL money generation, and I support it. I support the program and the Syracuse Football Letterman's Club 100%. I think that's the key. So it's kind of finding a happy balance, right? Happy medium. Again, it's change, and as change comes, your feelings come with it. Some get there faster, some don't. But it's the nature of the beast and the world we live in today, my friend.
Yeah, it's the world we're looking at, and trying to create a we society in a me-centric world, trying to create connection where there's dissension and distraction and disruption. And so, not that the student athletes shouldn't get paid something, with the NCAA being $1 billion quote unquote non-for-profit, but having parameters and having something when it comes to the transfer portal. I mean, this is something that nobody talks about, Blake, and I don't know why. But let's talk about reality. You can go through spring ball. You can go through weeks of practice, talk with coaches, learn the playbook, have the playbook, learn the scheming, learn the lingo. And at the end of spring ball, you could go to another team. So if I'm at Georgia, I learn all the nuances, all of the stuff. Let's say I'm a wide receiver. I learn all the plays. I learn all the schemes. I learn all the trick plays. I learn everything that's going on, all the lingo, the tendencies and the mannerisms of my coordinator and my head coach. And then I go to Florida and I tell Florida, hey, this is everything Georgia's going to do this year. This is what you need to be prepared for. I mean, why are they allowed to transfer after spring ball? That's my question.
Yeah. No, that you bring up a great point, because that's what I was going to allude to. One thing that I think is necessary, unequivocally, is to have parameters around that. And from the standpoint of, exactly, don't allow after spring ball, because you know why? I'm taking up reps. If I'm XYZ offensive lineman, right? I do go through spring ball, then decide to transfer. Well, you know what? I just stole reps from somebody else that probably could have used them, or the team could have benefited from them to rotate through. That's playing time is so valuable in those repetitions in practice. I learned that from Coach DeLeon. It's you need to be efficient. You need to hit the reps, and they're so coveted, right? Where there's got to be parameters around that, because I think, to your point, it's not fair, or it's not good to have somebody go through spring ball and then transfer, and it should be a 1-year deal, start to finish. Whatever that 1-year calendar looks like, or maybe you did a commitment for 2 years just to kind of slow things down to some degree if possible. I don't know. There's a contracts that are in place, and there's a whole nother animal behind the scenes in terms of, administratively. You got lawyers involved, you got agents, you've got sports marketing groups, you got. And it's just very disruptive.
Yeah, and again, it creates a lot of issues, and like you said, taking up reps, and then, as I talked about, being able to take information, bring it to another school. There's nothing that's stopping anybody from doing some really shady backdoor stuff, and it just doesn't make sense, right? You come out of spring, you go into summer, you prepare for the fall. Guys want to enroll early in January so that they could get more reps, so that they could show the coaches, so that they're not trying to make the starting roster in the fall. They're trying to make the starting roster in the spring, or they're trying to get close. I had 3 things come up here that go away from the conversation we're having, but I want to share them with you. Jerry Kelly said, "Hey Blake, hope all is well." Turnell obviously was on the show yesterday, so there's something from him. Bob Casulo said to say hello to you. And then Jim Jerome said to ask you about your black eye.
He doesn't let it die, Mr. JJ. What's up, buddy? So I was introducing somebody, I think it's Dan County getting the Zunic Award, and I was asked to do the intro to him. Well, we were horsing around with Mark Swinson and his son in my pool at home right before the interview, and we were playing basketball. Well, he went up for he was short at the time, he was 15, went up for a ball, grabbed the ball, swung around, and come across with his elbow, and I had a huge black eye for the video. So that's the story there. Thanks JJ for pointing that out. So I looked like Rocky. Yo, Adrian. It was a nice little shiner. So that's funny. So, hey, Jerry Kelly, Coach Casulo, hello. Great to hear from Jerry Kelly. He's great guy. He's very influential in, me coming when I was at Syracuse and all that. So it's all good. It's all good.
That coming from Blake Bednarz here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Syracuse Orange offensive line alum, a member of the 1987 undefeated team. Only 2 undefeated Syracuse football teams in the history of the program, 1959 national champions and 1987 with the likes of Blake Bednarz. Blake, how pissed off are you still that back in the day you could tie in the postseason, you could tie in a bowl game? Okay, you had an undefeated season, 11-0-1. You beat Auburn, but they kick a field goal at the end of the game to save face and to tie so everybody gets a trophy. Back in the day, I mean, you would think if you could tie in anything, you can't tie in the postseason. For goodness sakes, in soccer, you can't tie in the postseason, or else everybody would go to the World Cup and everybody would be a champion. So how do you look at back at that time when Auburn of the SEC was beaten up by Syracuse and somehow got a trophy back then?
Yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow, brother. And even this day, I run into Auburn fans, and literally to this day, I ran into somebody about a week ago who had an Auburn shirt. I said, "No, Auburn." He's like, "Yeah, man, big Tiger fans." And then I told him, "But Syracuse." I think I was wearing a Syracuse shirt. So it led to the conversation, and probably 90% of the fans that I've run into over the years still bring it up, like, "Pat, man, we're sorry about that." They're very apologetic, and even to this, even they're embarrassed. They're like, "Oh man, it's still when it comes up, you realize we were on the cusp of something good." And I said the story before on numerous broadcasts where I remember sitting in our hotel, and it was the night before the Auburn game, and they said, "Okay, if Syracuse wins, or if these 4 teams win, who would you vote as national champions?" And I remember it was a tie between Syracuse and Miami, whatever the vote was. However they captured that data, but we were so theoretically, as if we would have won, we would have been national champions or at least co-champions. And that one kind of stung. I remember guys, seniors, John Jarrett, our center, was in tears after the game. A lot of the upperclass, we're all upset, but a lot of guys crying. But to this day, if you go back and watch the video, at the end of the game, we're sort of walking across the field, and it was a traditional, Mac would always say, "Okay, go shake hands," and he'd talk to the other team and talk to the other coach. Well, we're going to mingle with the Auburn players. Mac jumps in front of us. "Get into the locker room. Get your ass into the locker room." And we ran, and you could see the video if you ever watch it. At the end of the game, Mac whispers some sweet night somethings in Pat Dye's ear and jogs off, and he was pissed. Mac came in. He's like, "Yay!" I'll never forget. He came in. He threw his jacket off. He was more pissed off than upset at that point. It stung. But you know what? It's like we went down, we did what we had to do, and that team was the number 1 defense in the country at the time, and they were averaging 34 yards of rushing per game. I think we had over 200 or right around 200 yards of rushing. We tore them up. We just tore them up.
Yeah, Syracuse taking down the SEC back in the day, trying to do it at the start of this upcoming season against Tennessee which will be at the wonderful Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where the season ended in the College Football Playoff National Championship, is where it will begin this season in the Aflac kickoff game. I was at the National Championship, and I look forward to being at Syracuse, Tennessee, God willing. Blake, I'm definitely going to have you back. I know you've been on the road, and we don't have as much time as I would like to have this morning, so you and I will do a picture-in-picture thing very soon when you're back up here in New York. But I do want to get to rapid fire. We get to put each other on the hot seat. It can be football related or anything related. You can ask me whatever you want whenever you're ready.
All right. So where in Florida do you reside, Dan? I know you said kind of split your time.
Yeah. So I am Orlando, St. Augustine is like the majority of it. It's been some Jacksonville, but I would say that my second home is between Orlando and St. Augustine.
Nice. It's beautiful down there. We were down in New Smyrna.
Okay, New Smyrna. Okay. My question back to you is, if you had to if you snapped your fingers and turned into any type of food, what food would you want to become and why?
Oh man, I should have smoked some marijuana for this question. What food? And I would say a steak. Okay. Everybody loves a steak. Big, juicy, sexy. Yeah, I would say a steak.
Okay.
That's me.
A steak.
Big, juicy, and sexy.
Okay.
For sure.
He mentions marijuana and says big, juicy, and sexy. This clip will definitely be on our social media reels. Blake, your final question for me, Blake.
Yes. So while you're on the topic of food, if you were to have your last food before the electric chair execution, what's your last meal?
Well, you know I'm Italian and Hispanic, so I'm getting out of that chair. But I would say that my last meal would be my G-Mama's stuffed shells, my Gammy's chicken noodle soup, my mom's turkey rolled like mini Thanksgiving dinner, and for dessert it would be my mom's homemade Rice Krispie treats with chocolate and rigot pie from my Gammy. So I'd put it all together, and while I was eating all those courses, I would be plotting my escape.
Wow, you left one thing, your beverage. What's your beverage?
Oh, my
choice?
Beverage. I would have. What would be my beverage? You know what? It would be a Miami Vice. It would be a strawberry daiquiri pina colada mix. It'd be a Miami Vice.
Ooh.
So
I'll have to tell my wife about that one.
yeah, that's really good.
Sounds good.
My last question to you is, if you became a superhero character right now, what character would you want to become? And it doesn't have to be, it could be anybody. It could be Daredevil, it could be Punisher. But if you were to become a hero today, what hero would you be? What villain would you fight? And what city would you protect?
Oof. Man, these are deep, buddy. I would say the Invisible Man.
Okay.
And I would protect... That's a tough one. Syracuse.
Okay.
That's it.
And
That's all I got.
what villain would you fight?
I would say probably the Green Goblin.
Okay.
Green Goblin.
Okay. So be invisible, fight the Green Goblin to protect Syracuse. That coming here from Blake Bednarz, Syracuse Orange, undefeated season 1987. He was an offensive lineman on that wonderful roster. And, of course, he is always with us here on Wake Up Call throughout the years inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Blake, you will be back very soon so we can have the rest of our conversation. Travel safely. Give your daughter my best and your family my best. And, as always, thank you for everything. God bless, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thanks, Dan. Likewise, appreciate being on, and we'll talk to you soon, brother. Be well.
You too. Take
you.
care. That coming from Blake Bednarz one more time here on Wake Up Call. We got to take a final step aside before we jump out, and so we'll be back right after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks comes to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Find them open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5, featuring everything that you need. If you're a sports card and trading card collector, you will find amazing things at GG Cards and Breaks. If you've never collected a card once in your life, you are in for a treat. GG Cards and Breaks, they care, their customer service, their attention to detail, the work that they do beyond the work that you even know that they do. All the stuff in the background, it shows. And I appreciate it, I respect it, and I value it. It starts with Josh and Anthony, and it trickles throughout the entire team. Head to GG Cards and Breaks today and experience the difference and stay a big kid. 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. With that being said, I want to thank you for tuning in up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. And, of course, on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. You can find us by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Download, follow, click on it, love it, subscribe to it. It's all free. And, of course, from New York to North Carolina, the Brooklyn Pickle, you'll find on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, there for you, down the road from Pinehurst Golf Course. And a big thanks to our incredible team of partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, Avicoli's, Servomation, Mother's Cupboard, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Pizza Man, Brian's Landing, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins, Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, and Binghamton University Bearcats. Find our Lemoyne coverage every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Find our Bearcats every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can find all of our coverage of Lemoyne on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find the Lemoyne playlist. While you're on YouTube and you're clicking subscribe and hitting the notification bell, find the BSC Syracuse playlist for the Bobcats, and find our Binghamton playlist with the Bearcats. You'll also find all of these exclusive multimedia marketing partners by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com, as well as Syracuse.bscbobcats.com and BinghamtonBearcats.com. From the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I say, God bless, no stress. Do your best. Be good to each other, forgive one another, and understand that beautiful souls will shine through the darkness. And hold on to the ones that you love.